Hello and welcome to Causal 101. My name's Taimur, I'm the founder and CEO of Causal, and over the course of this series, I'll be teaching you how to use our product. Now, even if you're like me and usually prefer figuring things out for yourself, this video series is the fastest way to figure out how to use Causal, and I can guarantee you that. We're going to work up to build a basic financial model for a coffee business. We'll have a great dashboard with charts and tables showing a few different scenarios for our business. We'll have historical data coming in from Google Sheets, and we'll have custom forecasts based on formulas and assumptions that we're going to build into our model. In this first video, we'll be looking at Causal's main interface for building models, the spreadsheet. We'll be entering some assumptions about our business in, and writing some basic formulas to some calculations. And for this video, all you'll need is your Causal account. Let's dive in. So I've logged into Causal and this is my home screen. And what I'm going to do is click on this big new model button to create a new model from scratch. So I will name this Coffee Inc. That's the name of my business, and I'll hit create. So I've created my model and this is the blank canvas that Causal has given me. Before we start writing in some assumptions, let's just walk through the different parts of the user interface. The main interface here on the screen is the spreadsheet. We'll see that this is broken up into some different sections. We've got an input section, we've got a section for calculations. These sections are just there to help you lay out your model however works best for you. We can rename these sections, we can create new sections, and we'll be getting to that in a little bit. Causal has also created the different columns of our spreadsheet based on the time settings up here in the top right. And so we can customize these time settings if we want. We can extend the model out towards 2025 and save those changes, and Causal will set that automatically. We have a few buttons in the top right here for sharing, for version control, to preview our charts, and a couple of other things. This switcher at the top lets us switch between spreadsheet and dashboard mode, which we'll get to in a sec. And finally, the sidebar here on the left shows us a summary of all of the different objects that we're working with in our model. And as we build a model out, you'll see this fill up with a few more objects over the course of the series. So that's the basic interface. Let's now dive in and start entering some assumptions about our business. Now, the key assumptions that we're going to be working with are firstly, the number of sales that we currently get per month. And so we'll call this our initial monthly sales. And we'll hit enter. And maybe we'll give this a value of 100. So we get 100 sales per month today. Let's also make an assumption about how this is going to grow over time. We'll create a variable called growth rate. And we can just make an assumption that maybe our business will grow between 5 and 10% a month. Now in Causal, we can actually enter a range like 5% to 10%. We can enter an expression like this, and Causal will treat this as a range going forwards. It'll run a bunch of simulations behind the scenes for different values between 5 and 10%, but you don't need to worry too much about the details there. So we've created a couple of variables. You'll see that each variable in Causal has a name, each variable has a formula or a value, and we could actually change these values in any of these cells if we wanted to as well. If we wanted to have a different growth rate, say for 2024, we could go into the cell for January. We could say maybe we're actually expecting this to be 3%. This will now change the value for January. And if we wanted, we could drag this to affect multiple months. We could fill it all the way across the rest of our model. So in any cell, you can actually change the formula or change the value. I'm going to undo those changes for now, just to keep things simple. Each formula also has a formatting option. You can format things as a number, as a percentage, currency, date, or booleans as well. If you enter something like a percentage symbol or a currency symbol into the formula, Causal will figure out what formatting you're probably trying to go for. Otherwise, you can go in here and manually set the format for each variable. Variables can be connected to data as well. We're not going to be doing that yet, but a couple of videos from now, we will be. So stay tuned for that. So we've got our initial monthly sales, we've got the growth rate, which will be how our sales increase over time. I guess we'll also need to know our revenue per sale. So for each sale of our product, how much revenue do we get? Maybe just $50 for now. And these should be enough assumptions for us to start now doing some calculations. So let's move into the calculation section of our model and let's create our first calculation. And this is going to be our number of sales in each month based on the growth rate and the initial monthly sales. So we'll create a variable called sales. And if we think about what we want to do here, each month we want to look at the number of sales in the previous month, and we want to increase that by the growth rate. Now in Causal, you can reference previous values of a variable simply by typing the word previous. I can hit enter or tab to select this. So this will bring me my sales in the previous month. And what I want to do is multiply this by 1 plus the growth rate. So if I hit enter, I should see something pretty interesting. We'll see that now Causal has filled in a bunch of zeros for the rest of my model. And Causal's giving me a little warning here, which is just telling me that for the first month of our model, sales in the previous month is defaulting to 0. So obviously in the first month of our model, we don't have a previous month to look at. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the cell for January, and we can change the formula just for this cell. And so just for January, we want our sales to be equal to our initial monthly sales. And so we've overridden this. If we now hit enter, Causal has one formula for January. It has a different formula for the rest of the months. And you can see in total, there are 2 formulas on this variable. And now we can see very nicely that Causal is growing our sales by that growth rate and providing us a range for each of those different months. You'll see that Causal has automatically created these roll-up columns for the full year roll-up. You can define how Causal does those roll-ups by just clicking into that column for each variable. In this case, it's just adding up the sales of each month to bring us our total sales, which sounds about right. In some cases, you won't want to do that. If we want to customize the roll-up, we can click on the roll-up icon here, and maybe we'll have quarterly roll-ups instead of yearly. So now we have columns for each quarter, showing us the total for each quarter. So we've got our sales for each month. We can now work out our revenue each month. So we'll create a variable called revenue, and the formula here will just be sales times revenue per sale. And we'll hit enter, and now we can see the revenue for each month of our model. We'll stop there for this video. What we've done is create a simple model with a few assumptions and some basic calculations. In the next video, we'll be taking this a step further by breaking this model down by different products and creating different scenarios that we can compare. See you there.